While Israel's attention has recently moved to its northern border with Lebanon,
Iran severed all diplomatic relations with Israel in the wake of the 1979 Iranian Revolution. No love lost, as tensions had always been high between Iran and the newly formed Jewish state.
No place for racism in this country. We are all equal, and it is absolutely unacceptable what is happening right now for Jewish people.
Throughout the years, the two nations have been embroiled in a proxy war that's only seen direct conflicts twice, once in 1982 during the Second Lebanon War, and now in 2024 as Iran launched 200 missiles into Israel.
The sky over Israel is alight with the fire of incoming missiles and the defenses taking them down.
According to Iranian officials, the move was necessary, a retaliatory effort for the slaying of several senior Iranian officials, as well as Iranian-backed militant leaders in Lebanon. Here's everything that's been going on in the Middle East in 2024. One, Iran has waged war against Israel. Following the targeted airstrike carried out by Israel's defense forces in April 2024, the Iranian foreign ambassador sent a message to his Israeli counterpart via the Hungarian foreign ambassador. To put this into context, April 2024 saw the single largest escalation of the Iran-Israel conflict since the 1982 Lebanon War, which, by the way, was eventually trumped by the October 1st escalation. In any case, Israeli airstrikes targeted 7 senior members of Iran's Royal Guard commanders, including Reza Zahedi. Like and subscribe right now, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week. Israeli media outlets refused to comment on the attack that saw F-35 warplanes launch 6 missiles at the Iranian embassy in Damascus, Syria. However, Iranian and Syrian media outlets claimed Israel was directly responsible for the attack. 2. Israel's invasion into Lebanon. Iran responds. To give some context, Iran has long been accused of supplying funds and ammunition to proxy militant groups in the Middle East. Together, these militias are referred to as the Axis of Resistance and share a common hatred for the Jewish state. Following the events of October 7th, which many believe was the single largest targeted slaying of Jewish groups since the Holocaust, Israel has launched an all-offensive against its opponents in the Middle East. Naturally, Hezbollah and Hamas are among the threats Israel seeks to neutralize. After the Gaza conflict, the IDF advanced into South Lebanon. Neutralization attempts against Hezbollah began in July 2024 with the assassination of Fouad Shakur. In response, Iran condemned the attack on Beirut as what Iranian media detailed an unnecessary move to advance into Lebanon and harm civilians. 3. Iran will pay. Benjamin Netanyahu. On October 1st, 2024, following Iran's declaration of war, it launched a missile attack on Israel. The Israeli Defense Force, IDF, quickly moved civilians to shelters as alarms sounded across the country. Iran framed the attack as retaliation for the killing of its military leaders, with U.S. intelligence estimating 200 missiles fired, while the IDF reported 180. No casualties were recorded in Israel, and the all-clear was issued after 45 minutes. Prime Minister Netanyahu called the attack a failure and vowed retaliation, stating, "Iran will pay for it." During a press conference, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan confirmed that U.S. Navy destroyers were deployed to assist Israel's defense, with the joint forces intercepting almost all the missiles, limiting damage to nominal levels. Despite this, Iran's UN mission declared the attack a success, though it provided no evidence to support its claims. 4. Terrorist attack claims 7. Earlier that day, a terrorist attack in Tel Aviv's Jaffa area left 7 people dead, though police have yet to confirm any link between the attack and the missile strike. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, warned that any Israeli retaliation would trigger further, more aggressive actions, potentially escalating the conflict. Militant groups like Hamas and Hezbollah praised Iran's strike, while global powers such as the US, UK, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan condemned the missile launch, reinforcing the long-standing hostility between Iran and Israel. The situation marks a dangerous escalation in the region, with the potential for further conflict. 5. Hamas claims responsibility for ground terror attack. The Ezzedine al-Qassam Brigades takes responsibility for the heroic Jaffa operation carried out by the fighters from the West Bank city of Hebron, the group said in a statement on October 2, 2024. The Ezzedine al-Qassam Brigades named the attackers as Mohammed Misk and Ahmed al-Haimoni, who managed to infiltrate into our occupied lands. Police in Israel said the alleged assailants began their killing spree when they entered the carriage of the light rail train that stopped at the station and fired at passengers. They were armed with an assault rifle and a knife and continued on foot until police neutralized them, they said. 6. Iran claims its attack on Israel is over. Retaliation will not be tolerated, according to Iranian officials. In two separate posts on X, Ayatollah Khamenei emphasized that while righteous people may have to make sacrifices, they will ultimately prevail. Iran's supreme leader, through its UN mission, stated that the attack on Israel was temporarily over, but warned that any retaliation from Israel would be viewed as a direct act of war, prompting a full-scale offensive against Israel. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian also praised the military's successful strike, describing it as only a glimpse of Iran's power and hinting at more significant actions in the future. 7. Support from the axis of resistance. Militant groups like Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the Islamic resistance in Iraq have publicly supported Iran in the conflict. In contrast, countries including the United States, United Kingdom, Jordan, France, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE condemned Iran's missile attack on October 1st. Hamas applauded Iran for its heroic rocket strikes, while Yemen's Houthis praised Iran's strong stance against Israeli actions in Palestine and Lebanon. The Iraqi Resistance Coordination Committee warned the US that any involvement in retaliation would lead to attacks on US military forces in Iraq. 8. US President Joe Biden in a tight spot. The United States considers itself an ally of the Jewish state, and the incumbent President Joe Biden has repeatedly reiterated his support for Israel and its right for self-defense. Yet Biden has also warned his Israeli counterpart, Netanyahu, of retaliating strongly against Iran, fearing a full-blown war in the Middle East. Previously, Biden warned Netanyahu to show restraint after Iran carried out its first round of missile attacks in April 2024. Currently, the US is gearing toward a presidential election in November 2024, which will see either Democratic candidate Kamala Harris or Republican candidate Donald J. Trump enter office. Incumbent President Joe Biden will be signing off after health concerns were raised during his initial run for re-election. That being said, Biden, along with Vice President Harris, were in the Situation Room as Iran launched missiles into Israel. 9. The missiles in Iran's arsenal. According to a 2021 report by the Missile Threat Project, Iran possesses a vast arsenal of missiles with various ranges, though the exact quantity of each type remains unknown. In 2023, Air Force General Kenneth McKenzie informed Congress that Iran had over 3,000 ballistic missiles. Analysts studying verified footage from social media confirmed that Iran used variants of the Shahab-3 ballistic missile during its attacks on Israel. The Shahab-3, introduced in 2003, forms the core of Iran's medium-range ballistic missile capabilities. It employs a liquid propellant and is capable of carrying warheads weighing between 760 to 1,200 kilograms. These missiles can be launched from both mobile platforms and silos, providing strategic flexibility. 10. The Shahab-3 and the Fatah-1. Over time, Iran has developed more advanced versions of the Shahab-3 with significant destructive potential. The Ghadr and Imad missiles are two such upgrades, known for their increased accuracy, hitting within 300 meters of their targets. These missiles are designed to deliver precise strikes, making them more effective in conflict scenarios. Another notable development in Iran's missile arsenal is the Fatah-1, which made its debut during Iran's October 2024 missile strike on Israel. Iranian officials referred to the Fatah-1 as a hypersonic missile capable of traveling at speeds of Mach 5, 5 times the speed of sound. While all ballistic missiles reach hypersonic speeds, the Fatah-1 is unique due to its maneuverable re-entry vehicle, which allows it to change its flight path and evade missile defense systems. This capability makes the Fatah-1 particularly dangerous as it can adjust its trajectory to bypass traditional interception efforts. 11. How did Israel intercept Iranian missiles? Israel's missile defense system is one of the most advanced in the world, designed to counter a wide range of threats, from ballistic missiles to low-flying cruise missiles. At the base of this layered defense is the Iron Dome, a system designed to intercept short-range rockets and artillery shells. However, the Iron Dome is not equipped to handle the more sophisticated ballistic missiles like those used by Iran. For medium-range threats, Israel relies on the David's Sling system, a collaboration between Israel's Rafael defense systems and the American defense company Raytheon. David's Sling uses Stunner and Sky Scepter interceptors, which are kinetic hit-to-kill missiles capable of destroying targets up to 186 miles away. 12. Iranian missiles never stood a chance. In addition to the Iron Dome and David's Sling, Israel employs the Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 missile defense systems, which are specifically designed to counter ballistic missile threats. The Arrow 2 system uses fragmentation warheads to destroy incoming missiles in their terminal phase, while the Arrow 3 takes a more advanced approach. Arrow 3 uses hit-to-kill technology, targeting ballistic missiles while they are still in space, before they re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. This allows Israel to neutralize threats before they become a more immediate danger. Together, these systems form a robust shield, protecting Israel from a variety of missile attacks, including those from Iran's evolving and increasingly advanced arsenal. 13. The Axis of Resistance. The Axis of Resistance refers to a loose coalition of state and non-state actors, primarily in the Middle East, united by their opposition to Western influence and, more significantly, their deep-seated hostility toward Israel. This alliance includes Iran, Syria, Hezbollah in Lebanon, various Iraqi Shia militias, the Palestinian militant groups Hamas and Islamic Jihad, and the Houthi rebels in Yemen. While the Axis members share common goals, such as opposing Israel and resisting American and Western influence, internal rivalries, regional conflicts, and diverging strategic priorities have at times strained their unity. This tension within the group has weakened their cohesion and impacted their collective effectiveness. 14. Iran's role in the proxy war. At the heart of the Axis of Resistance is Iran, which plays a pivotal role in financing, arming, and training many of these groups. Iran views Israel as a key adversary, often referring to the state as the Zionist entity and calling for its destruction. This enmity has been a central pillar of Iran's foreign policy, especially since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Tehran supports groups like Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and Hamas, all of which have launched violent attacks against Israel over the years. For Iran, its leadership within the Axis allows it to project power beyond its borders and assert influence in critical regional theaters, from Lebanon to Iraq and Syria. 15. Hezbollah, Israel's longest-standing enemy. Hezbollah, a Shiite militant group based in Lebanon, is arguably the most formidable non-state actor within the Axis. Backed heavily by Iran, it has fought numerous battles with Israel, most notably during the 2006 Lebanon War. Hezbollah views Israel as an illegitimate state occupying Palestinian land and sees its resistance against Israel as both a religious and nationalist duty. Hezbollah has built an extensive arsenal of rockets and missiles aimed at Israel, positioning itself as a major deterrent against Israeli military action. However, Hezbollah's involvement in the Syrian civil war on behalf of the Assad regime, which is also part of the Axis, has weakened its standing within Lebanon and diverted its resources away from direct confrontation with Israel. 16. Hamas has declared war on Israel. Hamas, an Islamist militant organization based in the Gaza Strip, also plays a prominent role in the Axis. Although Hamas is Sunni, its political and military alignment with predominantly Shia Iran highlights the pragmatic alliances that characterize the axis of resistance. Hamas has fought multiple wars against Israel and continues to launch rocket attacks, conduct raids, and carry out other acts of violence against Israeli civilians and military targets.
Despite Israel destroying dozens of Hamas tunnels since the start of the war,
However, the relationship between Hamas and other Axis members, particularly Hezbollah, has been complicated by sectarian divides. Hamas's ties with Sunni-majority states like Qatar and Turkey sometimes clash with its broader alignment with Iran and the Shia elements of the Axis. Furthermore, the ongoing feud between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank, has complicated efforts to present a unified Palestinian front against Israel. 17. The Popular Mobilization Forces, more enemies of the Jewish state. The Iraqi Shia militias, known collectively as the Popular Mobilization Forces, are another key component of the Axis. Many of these militias were either formed or strengthened by Iran in the aftermath of the 2003 US invasion of Iraq, and they view their struggle as part of a broader resistance against both Israeli and American imperialism in the region. The group has also suffered casualties and lost influence in the wake of internal political conflicts in Iraq and clashes with other Iraqi factions not aligned with Iran. 18. Fragmentation of the Axis of Resistance. While united by their hatred for Israel, the Axis of Resistance has suffered from internal tensions and rivalries. For instance, the Syrian civil war exposed many of these fissures. Hezbollah and Iran committed significant resources to support the Assad regime, but other Sunni-dominated militant groups opposed Assad, leading to direct confrontations. Though pragmatic alliances have allowed them to maintain some level of unity, the Syrian conflict demonstrated that the Axis is far from monolithic, with member groups often prioritizing their national or sectarian interests over collective goals. 19. Infighting in the militias. In Lebanon, Hezbollah's dominance has led to political polarization, and its involvement in Syria has drawn criticism from within Lebanon's Sunni and Christian populations. Similarly, Iran's support for foreign militant groups has come at a significant financial cost, straining the country's resources amidst crippling economic sanctions.
But the army says Al-Qaeda fighters have only two options.
This has sparked discontent within Iran, with some citizens questioning whether supporting external allies is worth the domestic hardships they endure. 20. Not everyone in the Middle East supports the Axis of Resistance. The Axis's opposition to Israel often puts its members at odds with other Sunni-majority countries in the region, many of which, like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, have either normalized or softened relations with Israel in recent years. The Abraham Accords, which saw the UAE and Bahrain establish formal ties with Israel, represent a significant geopolitical shift that isolates the Axis further. This normalization process underscores the declining influence of the Axis as regional powers seek stability and economic growth rather than perpetual conflict with Israel. 21. October 7th. Attacks. On October 7, 2024, what The Economist described as the most horrific event in Jewish history since the Holocaust took place, Hamas launched over 3,000 missiles from Gaza into Israel, and 3,000 militants infiltrated Israeli territory. According to a Hamas spokesperson, this escalation was a response to the growing tensions surrounding Gaza, Israeli settlements, and the attacks on the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Although Israel's air defense systems intercepted most of the missiles, Some were used as decoys to allow for more devastating strikes. Israeli intelligence suggested that Hamas aimed to create a perpetual state of conflict in the region. In response, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed not only to retaliate, but also to recover the hostages, no matter the cost. 22. Razi Mousavi's slaying. Iran issues warning to Israel. By December 23, 2024, 2 months into the intensified Israel-Hamas conflict, Israeli airstrikes reportedly assassinated Razi Mousavi, a senior member of Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Mousavi was instrumental in coordinating Iranian and Syrian militant efforts and had survived multiple IDF assassination attempts before his death. His assassination marked one of the highest-profile killings of an Iranian military figure since the death of Qasem Soleimani. The conflict between Israel and Hamas, particularly after the October 7th attacks, had already claimed thousands of Palestinian lives, including many children, according to reports from Gaza's health ministry. 23. The April 2024 attack on the Iranian embassy. In April 2024, the conflict further escalated when 7 Iranian officers were killed in an Israeli airstrike targeting a building in Damascus, Syria. Among those killed were Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahedi, a senior commander in the Quds Force, and his deputy, Brigadier General Mohammad Hadi Haji Rahimi. The attack, which destroyed part of the Iranian consulate, was condemned by both Iran and Syria. Although Israel did not officially comment on the incident, it acknowledged previous strikes in Syria.
I hope that God grants patience to the mothers, fathers, wives and children of these martyrs.
Aimed at Iranian military assets and groups like Hezbollah, which are funded and trained by the Revolutionary Guards. Zahedi's assassination marked a turning point in the conflict between Israel and Iran. Widespread protests in Tehran, Tabriz, and Isfahan demanded a full-scale retaliation against Israel. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, promised a strong response, and the Iranian government issued a warning to the United Nations, stating it reserved the right to respond decisively. 24. Operation True Promise. On April 13, 2024, Iran launched Operation True Promise, attacking Israel with more than 300 standoff weapons, including aerial drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles. The attack, the largest drone assault in history, was hailed as a success by Iran. However, Israel claimed that its air defenses, along with support from allied systems.
Last night, along with the older Scud-derived Shahab missiles, there were signatures of the Fatah-1 in evidence.
Had intercepted most of the weapons before they could cause significant damage. The United States, despite its strong alliance with Israel, stated that it would not participate in any retaliatory strike against Iran. In the aftermath, Israel argued that the attack merited a response, while Iran threatened even harsher retaliation if Israel launched a counterstrike. As tensions mounted, the Israeli War Cabinet debated the scale of the country's response, with international pressure calling for restraint. 25 September 2024. Events: the pager blasts. Thousands of pagers, many linked to Hezbollah members, exploded simultaneously across Lebanon and Syria, resulting in the unaliving of at least 13 people, including children, and injuring around 4,000 others, with many in critical condition. While Israel was widely suspected to be behind this coordinated attack, it did not officially take credit. The situation quickly worsened when a second wave of explosions targeted communications devices, including walkie-talkies, in Lebanon, slaying 14 people and wounding approximately 450. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant praised the excellent achievements of Israel's military and intelligence branches, noting impressive results, but did not directly mention the device-related explosions that had occurred over the previous 2 days. 26. The assassination of Hezbollah leaders. In a high-profile operation, Israel struck a residential building in a crowded suburb of Beirut during rush hour, slaying Hezbollah's military commander, Ibrahim Akil. The attack also claimed the lives of 37 others, including entire families, and left dozens more injured. Hezbollah confirmed Aqil's slaying, alongside 15 other members. Aqil had been on the US radar for years, wanted for his role in the 1983 bombing of the US embassy in Beirut. Israeli officials later disclosed that Aqil had been planning an imminent attack on northern Israel, akin to the Hamas assault that had sparked the conflict in Gaza in October. Following this, the Israeli Air Force launched a series of strikes, hitting roughly 400 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, including rocket launchers and military infrastructure in the southern regions. 27. Israel tells civilians to evacuate. As tensions escalated, Israel issued urgent warnings for southern Lebanese residents to evacuate, just hours before launching over 1,300 airstrikes on the area. The bombardment resulted in the slaying of at least 558 people, including women, children, and healthcare workers, and injured more than 1,800, according to Lebanese health officials.
Border having an estimated arsenal of roughly 150,000 rockets and missiles able to reaching any location in Israel.
This marked the deadliest day in Lebanon in decades. Meanwhile, Hezbollah launched approximately 200 rockets toward northern Israel, most of which were intercepted by Israel's defense systems. That same evening, Israel targeted an apartment in Beirut, where Ali Karaki, Hezbollah's Southern Front commander, was staying. Karaki survived the attack. 28. Hezbollah intensifies attacks against Israel. The conflict escalated further when Hezbollah launched a long-range missile that reached Tel Aviv airspace before being intercepted by Israeli forces. This marked the first time Hezbollah had targeted central Israel with such a missile. In response, Israel continued its relentless air campaign across southern Lebanon, killing another 72 people and injuring around 400, according to Lebanese health officials. The Israeli military also announced the deployment of 2 additional brigades of reserves to the north, preparing for a possible ground invasion into southern Lebanon. 29. A proposed ceasefire, a failed proposal. Amid the growing violence, the United States and France, backed by other G7 nations, proposed a 21-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu quickly rejected the proposal.
And Israel's leader indicated Monday that he is digging in for a fight.
As the fighting continued, Hezbollah launched dozens of rockets toward northern Israel, most of which were intercepted. Israel, in turn, carried out over 200 airstrikes in Lebanon, slaying an additional 92 people, according to Lebanese health officials. The week's violence had by then displaced tens of thousands of Lebanese citizens, marking the country's largest displacement in decades. 30. Events directly before October 1st, the slaying of Nasrallah. Addressing the UN General Assembly, Netanyahu declared that Israel was winning on multiple fronts and vowed to strike Iran and its proxies anywhere in the Middle East. Hours later, the Israeli military announced that Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, had been slain in the strike. Hezbollah confirmed his assassination, a development that analysts say could drastically alter the trajectory of the conflict, with wide-ranging consequences for Israel, Lebanon, Gaza, and the broader Middle East. What do you foresee happening in the Middle East as a result of the growing conflict?